Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host Flavia Barris as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur. Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today, it's very exciting because we get to speak with Richelle Delia. She is the co-founder of Housing Joint Venture. It's a real estate education and development firm helping professionals explore income property ownership as a safety net to diversify or create wealth. She has a website, which is housingjv.com. Richelle Delia, PhD, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Me too. And I often have to say on the show, I know, it looks like I'm just inviting real estate folks all the time onto the show. But you know what? I am not just targeting real estate folks. I myself am in real estate. So yes, I'm a little bit biased, but it's really because this show is about lifestyle solopreneurship, and real estate is a way to build passive income. It is a way to diversify. It's a way to have a business that you do on the side in addition to your day gig. And so I find that yes, we do have kind of a big ratio of real estate related guests, but it's not because I am just biased towards real estate. I swear everybody. I just, it's the right fit, the right guests. And so I bring them on, just like Richelle. So Richelle, tell us a little bit about you and your journey to how you ended up where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Flavia, real estate is just such a versatile asset class that it really does lend itself to people that want that more solopreneur lifestyle by design type of lifestyle. So it's an absolutely beautiful asset class. And that's exactly how I landed into it. So my background actually is in chemical engineering. And I actually purchased my first place when I was starting graduate school. PhDs take a long time to get and nobody really wants one. So they literally pay you to get one, at least in chemical engineering anyway. And so I was like, man, I'm going to be in this city for 5 years plus. So it probably makes sense for me to look into purchasing a place as opposed to just renting. So long story short, I bought a little condo and I rented out the spare bedrooms to my department mates. And that's kind of how it all got started. But it really spawned into something larger when I guess I was living my lifestyle by design. I went on this, I'm going to call it Eat, Pray, Love trip. So I was having my Elizabeth Gilbert moment and just needed to reset. I think a lot of times we can get burnt out and just really need to reconnect with ourselves. So anyway, I was in Portugal at the time and I had a property manager and she sent her normal monthly email that said I had gotten paid rent. But I tell you, it was something about being in Portugal, near the ocean, in the hotel room, where when someone is telling you that they have deposited money in your bank account and you're on the other side of the world, it lands a little differently, let me tell you. And I was like, I have won at life. This is absolutely brilliant. How can I get more of it? And that is honestly how it got started, and just wanted to do more of it.
And the rest is history. I agree. Yeah. Everyone kind of has that moment. I'm similar. I've told the story before on the podcast, so I won't tell it in too much detail, but I did have a month-long stay in a hospital once. Everyone's fine now, it all worked out. But during that month-long stay, I couldn't work at all, not only because of everything that was going on medically at the time. It was actually mostly my daughter, also myself. She had been a 2-month early preemie. And so we were in the NICU and I was recovering from an emergency C-section. It was all crazy. But also the hospital had no Wi-Fi. It had Wi-Fi, but they blocked every major website, including Google, Gmail, everything was blocked. I don't even know really why they called it Wi-Fi. You couldn't do anything. And I was living in the hospital. So unless I stepped out for a few minutes to get internet and Wi-Fi and check my email, I really couldn't function online. And most of my jobs are very driven by phone contact, emails, back and forth, and I couldn't do much. But let me tell you, like you're saying, rent checks came in, royalty income checks came in, all of those passive income. And it's not passive to build this stuff, right? Anyone who says passive income starts passively is trying to sell you something. Passive income is usually,
it's a misnomer.
Yeah, you flex your muscle pretty hard at the beginning to make it happen. But then once you set up passive income streams, the idea is that they do become quite passive. And being in that hospital and realizing, wow, all of my one-to-one, hourly wage type income has dried up. I've handed all my clients over to other attorneys and real estate brokers. And I mean, I can't help anyone right now, but the passive stuff remained. And that is a huge lesson. And I love that you were in Portugal, probably having a nice like glass of wine or, something and just on vacation. I'm picturing you in like this hat and sunglasses.
I wish it was that glamorous. It was not. I was in a hostel, but still.
Well, that's how I'll keep picturing it. That moment where you looked at an email on your phone and it was like, we've deposited your rent check. And you're like, this is the life.
Yes.
So what did you end up doing after that moment in Portugal? How did you go from that moment to where you are today?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, this was just after I had finished graduate school and I ended up getting a job in Ohio, which is where I still live today. And essentially, I think a lot of times the biggest hurdle is getting in the game and then you can refine and get better as you go. And that certainly was my experience. So once I got to Ohio, I wanted to continue to invest in real estate, of course, but do so in a way that had, I'll say, a little more strategy and certainly more profit as well. And so at that point, I started looking and researching and started buying some smaller properties here. And essentially, I ended up buying, I think, 3 houses in a small apartment community. And then I was like, okay, this is really onto something. But essentially, as I was growing, I ended up meeting some girlfriends that we were becoming friends. And when you're young and single, you go to like these lady happy hours and you all hang out with each other. I kept talking about, oh my goodness, I want to buy more houses. I want to buy more houses. But they were like, listen, we talk about boys and shoes. We do not talk about houses. You are no longer invited to our girly happy hours. However, there's a gentleman you should meet and he's a real estate investor and y'all should be friends. Well, long story short, we hit it off for life and decided to marry and keep investing together. And one of the things that my husband and I learned as we kept growing is that real estate, in addition to just being an amazing asset class and an amazing way to generate passive income, it's also a way to impact people's lives. And one of the areas where we have really found, I'll call it a niche, is really taking properties that are eyesores in the community, previously dilapidated, or areas that have, I'll call it underinvestment. And by investing in them, you're able to restore vibrancy into neighborhoods. You're able to give quality housing to people that may not have had those same number of options before. And it really made real estate, at least for us, transform from just numbers on a balance sheet to, wow, this is really where people's lives happen, and much more of a mission-based organization as well. So yes, the financial aspects are phenomenal, but the way that you can impact people's lives have paid even more dividends.
I can see this is definitely a passion for you and not just a way to build a business. It's evident in everything that you're saying, and it is so true. Real estate also has many different paths, right? I mean, there's so many different types of real estate, so many different ways to invest in those types of real estate. And I have personally seen very, high earners, like one doctor family that I know is one example, doctor and another person that worked in the medical industry as well, as dual earner couple, and they raised their family and, had income to do lots of things. But their best decision they ever made was the purchase of a commercial building, because that commercial building is what's actually funding their retirement income, not so much the 401ks, stocks, and the other things they invested in, but the out of the ballpark best investment they made was to buy a piece of property that now brings in, is fully paid off and brings in that rental income every month. That is what they count on, to budget on, to live on. And it's really amazing that they diversified into real estate, because if they hadn't, their whole scenario would be completely different today.
You're right. The thing about real estate is that it's income based, right? So when you're investing in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and options, and don't get me wrong, I love the stock market, and so I will never say anything bad about it, but it's a lot more difficult to, I'll say, count your lunch money. What are you going to eat on? What are you going to pay your bills on in the stock market? Because the market goes up and the market comes down, and it's very difficult to predict. However, because real estate is, I'm a buy and hold investor, right? So because it's very income based and income driven, it keeps pace with inflation, I think better than most other asset classes, one. Two, it also allows you to really pragmatically determine what that goal number is, right? So it's very easy to say, hey, my number is I need $10,000 per month. So I'm just going to keep math easy. That is 10 $1,000 per month rental units. And so that makes it so much easier to really forecast what your needs are, as opposed to, when you are saving in a 401k or trying to have this mutual fund or index fund portfolio and manage the 4% rule and, how much can I withdraw and can I still do this? Those are a lot of mental gyrations. Real estate is just very straightforward. It's a tangible asset. And the income literally can fluctuate with inflation in a good way. So as inflation increases, your income increases in lockstep. And so you're not, I'll call it, you don't get bit in the butt like you do with some of these other asset classes where I might have a large lump sum, but the buy my grocery money, pay my bills money, it's a little more difficult to do those mental gyrations.
Exactly. And I mean, all of this is so true, but not everybody sees it or realizes it. What do you think is the biggest obstacle getting in the way of people knowing these truths? So why are so many people afraid to invest in real estate? And what is the best way to help people get through those maybe misconceptions and myths?
Yeah. I think when you don't know something, the perception of risk generates fear. And I think we will be remiss if we didn't mention the 2008 housing crisis and how that has really impacted, I'll say, the overall psyche of the country. And I'm a millennial, so I was definitely coming of age at that time. So I bought my first property in 2009. So I am not going to negate the fact that timing definitely has played a huge part on my side. It has been quite a blessing in that regard. But I think when something feels scary, when something feels unattainable, we can almost block it out of our minds as, oh, that's something that I can never do. Oh, that's not for me. When in fact, in my opinion, real estate is one of the most accessible asset classes. It's one of the most accessible ways to build wealth and significant amounts of wealth for the average everyday working person on their way to becoming a solopreneur or transitioning out of that day job. So I think real estate is absolutely phenomenal. And the biggest suggestion that I would give someone is to dream, unabashedly dream. My biggest regret is not having large enough dreams in the beginning. So as I mentioned, when I first got started, I just bought a small little condo, and my background again is in engineering. So I was thinking, well, if I'm able to purchase one rental house a year, or maybe one rental house every few years, then by the time I retire, if I have 10 rental houses, man, I've made it. And that's an excellent goal. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sound like it's not. However, looking at how much opportunity there is, and regardless, whatever market you choose to be in, there's so much opportunity out there. And if I dreamed bigger sooner, who knows how large the portfolio could be today? And full disclosure, at this point, we have properties in 4 cities across 2 states, so don't necessarily cry for me, but it could be so much bigger if I had dreamed larger from the beginning. With strategy and diligence, literally anything is possible. And real estate is an amazing vehicle to get you there.
And so you ended up getting your PhD in a field that is not real estate.
Correct.
And then you ended up in parallel becoming, this big figure and a leader in the real estate education world. So do you ever wonder, do you use your PhD for anything specific right now? Or is it just something that is a wonderful memory and something you did, but you're not actively using it?
Yeah, well, funny enough, so my degree is in chemical engineering, and chemical engineering is a very broad discipline. So my focus was actually in materials science with a focus on nerve regeneration. So what does that mean in real terms? That means I made little packets of Jell-O, I call them Jell-O, out of things called polymers that are naturally occurring in the body to make things that could be used as implants to allow your own cells to grow, proliferate, and reconnect either after an injury or in the diseased state. So my first job out of grad school was actually working for a building materials manufacturer. So my whole life revolved around real estate, even before really, I'll call it making it big or really investing super heavily into real estate itself. So on the outside, it seems to not connect, but actually my formal education is in material science. And then I ended up becoming, I'll call it an expert in building materials. So from insulation to roofing shingles, national home building trends, and really having access to that large amounts of data, that's what really showed us that, hey, land prices have increased at a pace that cause housing prices to increase. And the reason why back in the day, a starter home was $100,000. If you've been paying attention, a starter home now is $250,000, $300,000 US. That's a lot of money. But the reason why starter homes are so much more expensive now is because the cost of land is also more expensive. So for a home builder, they honestly cannot price out homes at that lower price point anymore. So there really is this, I'll call it donutting effect in the market where no one is really able to address that real entry level market, because even that first time home buyer product is now really a move up product. And so from the rental standpoint, from the new home build, I'm going to owner occupy standpoint, there really was an opportunity to say, hey, how can we take this? It's called a shadow inventory. So how can I take this inventory of houses that may be vacant or existing on the market that again are underinvested, or I'm in Ohio, so we still have a lot of these houses that have never been renovated after that initial foreclosure in 2008. So we're 10 years plus, and these places are still abandoned. They're perfectly good houses, but no one has invested in them. And so therefore that supply and demand. So because there's not enough product on the market, prices go up, so forth and so on.
So true. And it's not just land prices. We also have so much regulation now in industries. I'm in California, so that's its own kind of unique state.
Good luck.
Yeah, we're exactly. So yeah, a law just passed. And so now all new homes built, every new home that is built now needs to have a full solar system. So guess who foots the bill for that? Is it the developer just eats it? Nope.
No.
Gets added on to the price of the house.
Exactly.
And so that's contributing to houses seeming or being overpriced for a lot of families. It's just one more thing that developers now have to add and do. And, obviously everything is a system. Everything is connected to everything else. I mean, insurance costs and just everything, materials costs, sourcing of things. It all kind of comes together into this ecosystem. It's like this own little economic system for home building. It is expensive to build a house.
It is to build a house, to maintain one. So there's a saying that I love, and it's don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. And I bought my first place when I was 21. So I think about this from time to time, like, oh, was that too early? But at the same time, supply and demand is only going to continue to increase. We're not making more land, okay? Like it is a finite resource. We can build more homes, but we cannot make more land. And so anything that you can do to get in the game as quickly as possible is definitely going to get you on the right path.
Well, and this is an industry that, if you want, is somewhat passive once you have built up what you want to build up. But there's still always that growth mode. So no matter, I don't know a single real estate investor, even ones that you think at this point would be retired, relaxed, and just enjoying. They're in the game, and they're always looking to reevaluate the portfolio, sell something here, exchange it for something there. And so I feel like it's not entirely passive, but there is a big passive component. Do you find that you're able to keep your life pretty balanced, where you're not a workaholic and you're not constantly looking at spreadsheets and, constantly going out to survey properties?
I fell in love with real estate. So to say that we don't look at houses all the time, we're not actively reconsidering. No, we definitely do that all the time. But it's fun and it's a source of joy. So I don't find it taxing. I don't find it a bother. I don't spend all my time looking at spreadsheets. But if you haven't heard already, I like old houses and I like I like the character and the crown molding and all the charm. Oh, just total swoon worthy. So for me, and thankfully my husband as well, those are sources of joy. So we definitely enjoy it. And it's fun. Real estate really is a relationship business. And if you like haggling, if you like wheeling and dealing, if you like flipping things, like if you were a person that used to buy things and flip them on eBay, real estate is going to be totally within your wheelhouse, because that's exactly what it is. It's about relationships. It's about making friends. It's about trading and seeing, oh, you have this house for sale. Okay, great. Maybe I can, maybe I'll sell this one and upgrade to that one, sort of thing. So it's fun. It's like trading Pokemon cards, but for adults.
Can I quote you on that? Real estate's fun. It's like Pokemon cards for adults. A little bit of, here, you have this property, I have this other one, and maybe we can make a deal. It's just too funny.
Absolutely. It is. I think you have to, again, lifestyle design, right? So what kind of life do you want to live, and who do you want your friends to be? So if you want your friends to be people that trade houses like Pokemon cards, that can happen. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be this super crazy thing. And I should mention, in the Midwest, prices are certainly much more affordable than they are in California. So these aren't super duper scary numbers at all. So that definitely does make it a little bit easier to stomach, for sure.
Isn't that one of the myths too? A lot of people think, well, if I'm going to become a real estate investor, I've got to have this huge inheritance, or I've got to be the super earner that's making tons of money. And it's actually not true. You can get into real estate with a pretty modest initial investment. One of your biggest assets will be good credit. So for anyone listening who's like, I want to be a real estate person in the future, take care of your credit, build your credit. And you don't need to have the kind of investment you might think you need to have. And that's probably something you go into, Richelle, in some of your courses. So tell us a little bit about your programs and courses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. Real estate is definitely something that is, again, obtainable to people, even with a modest budget. I would say that the thing that really separates our courses from a lot of the other trainings that are out there is that we focus on, I'm an engineer by background, right? So we definitely focus on being very data driven. One of the biggest hindrances, and we spoke on this earlier, is that people have a lot of fear associated with the unknown. And you have to respect the money that you do have, and you want to make sure that you're investing it wisely and allocating it appropriately. So how do you do that? There's a lot of uncertainty. How do I know where to invest, how to invest, what to invest in? Am I making a good decision? And so one of the things that we definitely help our clients and advise our clients on is how can you be very data driven with that? Here's what I mean. If someone is going to open a restaurant or a barbershop or even just a local business, the first thing they would do is to have a business plan. Absolutely. But when it comes to real estate investing, for some reason, we're just like, I'm just going to buy a house and get some people in it and it's going to all work out. And then we're crying 3 months later when they don't pay rent, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. Yeah. And it's like,
so true.
Right? It's like, no, you need to have that same level of diligence, if not more, when it comes to real estate investing. And so what we help our clients do is really develop their own real estate investing business plan. So it really is about being strategic from the beginning and saying, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? How big of a portfolio do I need to really support that lifestyle that I want? And then how can I be strategic from down to the zip code level? Where do I invest? How do I select locations that are going to support that lifestyle that I want and allow me to build a portfolio of the size that I need in order to, again, build that life that I want? And then go ahead, soup to nuts, everything from acquisition through renovation, getting their vendors, property management, and then some of the more fun stuff on the back end using creative financing, buying things with seller financing and creative ways to acquire properties with even less money out of pocket, using IRAs, insurance funds, stuff like that. So totally soup to nuts. And I will say that we are definitely more on the hand holding. So super step by step, hold my hand, show me how to do it way. So for people that are more DIY, we're probably not the best fit because our clients really want to have that touch. Like they're really trying to build their network, improve their network, and create the lifestyle that they want. How do I elevate myself into a stratosphere of a different network of people and really change all the people that I interact with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in business and personal life? And so that's really the person that would be the best fit for us.
And do you just love it? Do you like that look on people's faces when their minds are blown when you have shown them with data how many homes they would need to own by X number of years in order to retire on X amount of income? Like, do you just see their feel incredulous and then like super excited?
It's like, oh my goodness. One, like, oh my God, can I do this? Wait, I can do this. This can be possible for me. OMG, let's go get it.
That's amazing. No, that's great.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So tell us how people can connect with you, get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more about your programs. What are the best ways to do that?
Absolutely. Well, you can always say hi to me on LinkedIn. I am fairly active there. And then you can visit us at housingjv.com. And I should mention that we do have a complimentary value video that really teaches you what are the differences between persons that build $1 million portfolio versus people that struggle, quit, or just never get started. So they want to get into real estate, or they may have tried it here and there, but just really can't get their motion in their ocean, essentially. So if you're interested in that, you can go to housingjv.com/bootcamp. And it tells you all about that.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you, Richelle, for sharing your expertise and your perspective and your enthusiasm and your great stories with us today. It's been a real pleasure. And I thank you.
Oh my goodness. The pleasure has been mine. The conversation has been lovely. Thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness. But money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use a coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.